Hey guys, it's Jason back at MRS. We are going to continue with part 2 of the Riptide build for the Warhammer 40K T'au Empire Apocalypse set. Through the magic of video production, I have built the other leg. It's essentially the same as we covered in the first video, except the other leg. Alright, so one thing that I did leave off is this little thigh armor piece and this little bit here, and there is one for the other leg, as you can see here. So I'm going to go ahead and start there. I've already got them clipped out and kind of cleaned up a bit, and now we will go ahead and assemble those. Now these are pretty easy to put on, and like I mentioned in the first video, don't worry too much about cleaning this up, because hey, guess what, this bit slides right over it like that, and it's got this little half moon bit cut out. That's where it'll go into the hip, and we'll see that in this video. I still haven't glued the feet on, but I do have them here in front of their respective leg, and I will try to keep track, because the last thing you want is the goofy foot when you mix them up. So that being said, we'll go ahead and start going on this section. Again, I really like this glue a lot, but one thing you may want to have handy if you do use it is a lighter, and the reason is because sometimes it will dry in this this little metal bit here, and it just won't come out at all ever until we clean that tube out. You could use a thin needle or something like that as well, but a lighter just kind of burns it right out of there, and it's cheap and easy. So it's another one of those little tips if you use a lot of this glue. Also, the bottle is designed to kind of sit like this or like this. I like to keep it upright unless I absolutely, like if it's just falling over, then I'll let it sit like that. But that's just in hopes that the glue will actually just drain back down instead of getting stuck in there and settling. So we have both legs with thigh armor pieces. Got a little bit that probably ought to get cleaned up right there, and I realized I just didn't glue this part, so I'm going to do that really quick. I kind of want to use the other one to make sure, because again, as we come back to our stance, what we want is both legs kind of down like that. So I want to make sure that they are about the same so it doesn't stand weird. So he's going to be hopefully kind of living like this, and then we'll get the feet so that they're kind of, I will kind of cock him out like that so it looks like he just kind of landed. And again, we can maybe do something fun on the base, which the base is just like this little black plastic, but we'll get some materials on here so that we can, maybe have like a squish Space Marine, or like a cool little crater from where this big heavy suit landed, and just smash the ground all to bits when it landed. So now that these are all glued together, I am going to go ahead and put them back in my little box here, my little bead box, and I'm going to put the feet into the appropriate leg so we don't lose track of which one is which. And I'm just going to kind of set that aside for now, make sure it doesn't fall on the floor, and somebody come along and step on it and smash it. And all right, so there are some kind of leg embellishment pieces here, and we can cut those out and stick them on in a little bit. I'll go ahead and clip them out now and just stuff them in my little box here. So this piece here, it goes with that one. And this guy gets kind of some little additional thigh armor here. It's kind of a armor on top of armor plating, or I don't know what this bit actually represents in terms of equipment, but it does go on the leg, so that's where we'll have it go. I've like I said before, I've built a few of these riptides before, and on one I included this little armor bit, and on the other one I left it off, but it's got all these little ridges, and I wanted to do something that was kind of thematic, and so what I did was I took a 2-part epoxy called Green Stuff. You can pick it up here at MRS, and you just kind of smash it together, and then what I did is I stuffed it in all of these little ridges here, so that I had a big kind of piece, and then I painted myself I don't know, like a cool little design, 3 bars kind of coming up like this, just to kind of give some visual interest, but on this one we won't do that. We'll actually glue this piece on when we go in for further assembly on the legs, but now we just kind of clip that and left it there. Alright, so that gets us through to this little hip section here. Again, only numbers, no letters, so we're just gonna dig right in here to 25. Is on the opposite side over here. One thing to note, there's a lot of, I don't want to say there's a lot, I've seen some of the kits that they've got here at MRS. There's a fair amount of pieces here, but we're not going to use all of them because some of them are just extra antennas, or like here's 3 different face lens configurations. You could pick one of those, and then you've got all your different weapons, but we won't use all of them, but we will use most of them. And the good thing about that is you can start building your bits box. And your bits box is just going to be all your little leftover pieces from your kits. And what's great about that is if you want to do something really custom, then you can come into your bits box, and you can this particular model is a ghost keel battle suit for the T'au, and it came with 2 different heads, and this is the leftover one. So if I wanted to do something crazy with this head, I could. And I've got some of those, MSG, the Model Supply Group, and I've got some Gundam parts in here too. Like T'au Empire mechs, battle suits, they don't come with a knife, but I mean, if you want your guy to look like a brawler, give him one of those cool hands and then put a knife in it. So you can have lots of fun. Then extra fins and antennas and jetpacks and wings off of other ships and control panels. Like, you start collecting a lot of that stuff, then you can kind of start embellishing and making some cool stuff, some enhancements to your models to set them apart from everybody else. Alright, 4 pieces for the legs here, and I did have a piece of sandpaper. Here it is. I got these 3 kind of nubs, and it's easy to just kind of put the pieces together and slide it like that. Next thing you know, gotten rid of them all. Here's a little tool from Citadel that I kind of like too. It's not sharp. It's a little piece of metal. This is a mold line remover is what it's called, and it's great for, this is going to be difficult to sand, but I can take this mold line remover and just kind of get that good and flat and not mess up any of the other details of trying to sand it. So this is a handy little tool. I have used in the past. Careful, it makes a kind of squeaky sound, which can be kind of off-putting. But in the past, I've used like the backside of an X-Acto knife or something like that. But it will work, but this works a little bit better. They're not a fortune, and they're a good little tool to have in your kit. It's a good thing this camera's not pointed at my face. You'll see me with my tongue sticking out, because the sound this thing makes, it's kind of like, to me it's like fingernails on a chalkboard, but it's worth it. Alright, so we got that piece cleaned up, and that one looks pretty good. Alright, so we're ready to assemble this section. These holes are for whenever, if you're building it just according to this, you'll see these little nubs that we removed from the legs. They would just fit into those holes. So other than that, we would just, when we build ours, we're just going to run the glue around in here and then kind of hold it in place until it dries the way we want it to, in the stance that we want it to be in. Yeah, so I kind of glued these together without dry fitting them. I knew that they were okay because I built, like I said, a bunch of these, but it's definitely a good idea if you're not sure how it goes together to just try to put it together and hold it in place to see if it, you know, matches like what the picture is showing you before you start putting glue on there. I built myself a custom model and realized after I built the stance and everything else that I had the legs, the right on the left and left on the right on the upper section, but not on the lower section of the leg. And so fortunately the model was forgiving enough that it was kind of hard to tell, but I still know every time I look at it, I'm like, the legs. But all that can be avoided if we just dry fit them together first. Alright, so now we've got both legs, and now we've got the waist section here. So again, I'm going to try to dry fit this and see if it's going to give me what I want it to give me in terms of shape. It's good to know before you get too far into it and if you have to adjust. And it looks like we're going to be able to, I'm going to kind of turn these legs out a little bit to, you know, to get these calves and these fins so that they're, so we're still on track. And that being said, I'm just going to go ahead and put these back, and then I've got I'll leave this out for now. Next, it would show us gluing this down to the base. We're not going to do that yet because we're going to go and do some different stuff. So we'll move on to the body, upper body, I guess I should say. So I'll just go ahead and start clipping these out. Again, Games Workshop has been so nice. They've kept the pieces here together so we don't have to look too far for them. This is the upper body section. Ugh. This section right here has got this big hole in the middle. There's a little armor piece that fits here, so you don't have to worry about spending a lot of time on that. Now, as you guys know, I have clipped most of these little guide pieces off, but I am not going to clip this one off because it doesn't really interfere with the pose that we're going for. And the nice thing is it puts the upper body and the lower body kind of squarely straight up and down, not cocked to the side. And so for ease of gluing, it'll be nice to have that guide in place so that we don't have to fight it or hold it. It'll just kind of hold itself, if that's a thing. But these sections, they've got little bits that glue right into them, so that go for a second. Alright, so we got this bit. done. Now we'll clip out some of these little parts that go on the body here. 70. $71. And let's see.
Doing good?
Yeah.
Doug had to take off, so I'm kind of having to watch the front for a minute.
Okay. Where are we at on time? Are you okay?
Yep.
Cool. And we're just about done with this main torso part. So.
Perfect. Yell if you need.
Okay. Oh, the neck guard. Alright, so now we've got all of our additional torso pieces, and we'll go ahead and yeah, that little piece right there is kind of in the neck. One thing about sanding I would say too, and clipping, is make sure you're clipping out the right bits, and then only removing the stuff that needs to be removed. Sometimes I've been guilty of this myself, is I'll clip a piece out and then it doesn't look quite like it should, and that's because I've clipped part of it off. So just be careful about doing that. Alright, so we got our hips and waist here, and then we'll go ahead and start gluing on these bits according to. We'll kind of dry fit them first to make sure that there's nothing blatantly obvious that we need to fix up. And you'll see on here that there's an open end and then the end that's not, and it'll go on with this closed in at the top like that. So that fits pretty good, and this fits in there like that, and then that piece. That's interesting. There we go. That piece fits on there like that. Okay. Alright, so we're good to go. I'm going to start permanently attaching these on here. There we go. Looks like it's hold on there. So there's a couple of things to keep in mind if we will get to a section where when we're painting this model, and depending on what type of painter you are, you may want to leave bits like this off so that you can paint down into these crevices and then paint this separately and then glue it on. Some things to know, and that's perfectly fine solution, but some things to note are once you put paint on this plastic glue, it won't work anymore, so then you are on to super glue. So do be aware of that, and when I build mine, I try to keep in mind, like, okay, is this, do I care if this little thing that you can't see when that thing is on it, do I care if that's like got all the color and shading and highlighting that it should have underneath here? And in this case, I do not. I may leave the head off so that I can get in here and then super glue the head on afterwards. But for now, I am going to go ahead and glue this kind of little neck guard looking thing on here. So that's it. That's the kind of the hips and the torso and upper body, and that gets us through this section in the book here. Again, we'll just kind of let this stuff dry and just throw it in our little container here, and next time we'll just pick up on these engines. So thanks a lot, guys.